This is director Kevin Summerfield.
And writer Kim Goff.
And we're here to walk you through the stages of making Max Magician and the Legend of the Rings. This shot here we actually didn't film. This is an aerial shot that we purchased to introduce the film. Kim and I went through lots of footage to find a sequence that blended with this shot, which is something that I did film. This was filmed at Fort Howard National Park in Maryland. Kim actually picked this location because
it's a great place, and as a child I used to come here and do a lot of hiking, and it's like lots of vines, very surreal looking environment. You notice a lot of the trees are vine covered and real ethereal kind of look, so I thought it might work. And this is the shot where the elf is being hunted by the red cap, none other than my landlord, my office.
These costumes were whipped together obviously very quickly in order to meet our production deadlines. There's a collaboration of lots of different designs, from Cesar Castillo's original concept art to John Shepard, who supplied us with the props and weapons, helped design the harnesses and elements.
Betty Jane Scott took our drawing, Caesar's drawings, and she designed this cap for Philip with a red cap, and also these hoods and tunics you see. There he goes, ouch. You see Philip for the first time in his prosthetic. He did great with that. He did not injure himself with this morning star, also called the flailing whip. What was it that you were using for him to aim at?
Philip actually threw the Morning Star at a ladder so that he could judge the distance based upon how a person would stand in relation to where he would hit them. And then we inserted the footage of the Lehman, who was actually a stuntman that we hired to do these action sequences because of his stunt experience. Now we're into a completely different location, which happens to be the Gramercy Bed and Breakfast Estate. There was actually some additional footage that we shot to help introduce the scroll. However, the lighting environments had changed when we shot that under our second unit situation, which just didn't blend with our original principal photography. So instead I opted to make it more of a visual effect by introducing it with magic dust, essentially rolling right up to Mr. Tim.
This is Mike Shaughnessy's house, who's a family friend of mine. His son Brandon kind of kept an eye on everybody and helped them when the fog machine set the alarms off for the fire department, etc.
And of course now we were introduced to Timothy, who we spent a good year looking to cast for. We agreed that we wouldn't do this film unless we found a lead that we were comfortable with handling so many scenes and being such a pivotal talent to carry the film. And we read just hundreds of people in search of someone with the right personality. Not necessarily the right experience, but the right personality to handle the character. And ultimately, Timothy, who had no film experience, had the kind of warmth and texture that we were really looking for. And after a few screen tests, we picked him.
He did his own stunts, too. He photographs really well. Great looking kid. First mothers that we really liked in our auditions as well, and we ended up calling her back. This is actually Sparrows Point High School, and then back to Fort Howard Park in their parking lot again.
This sequence we shot right after a massive hurricane. We, in fact, were contemplating canceling that day's shoot because the hurricane was happening at the same time we were to be on set. And luckily, it started to clear up at around 11 o'clock in the morning, so I went ahead and pushed filming for that day. So we got there about 12:30 and shot as quickly as possible right directly after the hurricane. So there's kind of a bit of a gray tone to it because there really is no sunlight wrapping up that hurricane. But I think the sequence turned out pretty well for the few hours that we had to film it.
Amy, you're played here by Blaine Thompson. She is just adorable. We fell in love with her, and we knew we had to put her in the movie somewhere.
Kim actually did her makeup.
There we go.
And Kim made these magical eggs. So.
Not that one. I mean, it took us a few times to get this shot down.
That was our third attempt at cracking an egg over his head. So he was a good sport about hanging in there, take after take.
We just have the baby wipes ready. These are the hollow eggs that put the insides out, let them dry, and we fill them up with candies and necklaces and things that little girls would enjoy. And actually, the kids were fighting over who was going to take what home, so they took all the goodies home.
This is one of those situations where you shoot with two cameras, and unfortunately, both cameras were framed pretty similar. So in the edit, I couldn't cut into the close-ups that I was anticipating. But when you're shooting low budget, you don't have the option of video assist. You have to shoot what you get, and you hope that the camera operators are listening to your requests. Sometimes some things fall through the cracks. So hopefully the audience will understand that those gifts were jammed into those eggs.
Here we see Mr. Tim for the first time. Someone we had a terrible time finding a good Mr. Tim. Mr. Tim was literally last minute, wasn't he?
He was cast at the very last second, days before production began, because everyone that we brought in to read just didn't nail the character the way we envisioned him to be, and he actually was the closest to nail it. However, he wasn't the stature that Kim had written for. He was written more for Clint Eastwood type, and we got Yoda.
There we go.
So,
I patterned him after my own grandfather, who's about 6'2". As you can see, Mr. Tim here is about an inch taller than Max.
But Paul did such a fantastic job with the character.
He's got a great look, too.
He's got a fantastic voice that there was just no one else that could compete. Even the tall actors that came in just could not read anywhere near as well as Paul. Both during production and post-production brought it back to do his dialogue.
He's got a great intensity in his look, too. That's what I liked about him. See that look?
Yeah.
I like that.
And of course, this is the first time we see the magic book, which the Art Institute designed and really just did a phenomenal job. Their makeup effects and the book design, the cover just really looks like she did a fantastic job.
Kate Sears, and she did that with string and toilet paper.
And she actually has a cameo further into the film.
She's the green lady.
Who sits at the table next to Max, who we'll mention when we get to that point. This sequence again was a challenge to film because we were competing against lawnmowers, airplanes, and traffic over the dialogue, in addition to construction on a building nearby. So we just literally any second that we could find, we had to shoot a scene. And this is a scene that shouldn't have had to been reshot, but was. and Joel, I think, did a really good job at following Caesar's storyboards, and made this work really well. There was a massive continuity issue that slipped through the cracks when we filmed it, and Max had a completely different outfit on because it was the last scene of the last day of the last shoot, and we were all exhausted, and somehow it just kind of fell through the cracks, and I didn't notice it until I was logging in the dailies, and
the finger that you see on the book here later on is Kevin's finger, by the way. He shot that separately.
There you go. There's my finger.
Little boy hand.
That's my cameo. The pages of the book actually I also designed in Photoshop very quickly. We went through numerous designs for what the pages should look like, and never really kind of hit it on its head. And so we came up with that kind of quick design. And this is, of course, the magic door optical effects, which I had to whip together at a feverish pace in order to meet our release date. So these effects actually Kim photographed the tree.
Right on the Gramercy Estate, the same place we were filming in a different location.
And we composited it into the shot. And this, of course, the magic door, which was built by Mike. Michael Valentine did a fantastic job, but he built it so large and so heavy that we couldn't maneuver it, other than to the initial location, which was here in Fort Howard. And here are the mice from
2001, A Fish Odyssey. Heather Bosley was gracious enough to let us use her mice, and this is one of 3. We ended up with 2 before production. One committed suicide on the wheel. It ran itself to death. And she said that Heather had told us this happens once in a while. So we ended up with this mouse here, which we nicknamed Fat Bastard because she ate the babies of our other star mouse. We used all females because they're easier to work with, even though the Primble character is a male. The females are a lot easier to handle, and they don't smell as strong, which does make a difference when you're working with rodents. But this mouse didn't do a whole lot. Just kind of sat there as she's kind of overweight. But the next mouse you see is a little tiny bit lighter in color, and that mouse, we just called her Sweetie because she was so sweet. And this is my baby. This is Ishta, my red-tailed hawk. He's 8 years old. This is the other mouse, Sweetie. Ishta, of course, is a falconry bird, and I'm a licensed falconer, and that's how I'm able to have a hawk. It's controlled through the Department of Natural Resources and the federal government. There he is again. Great shot. Ishta loved Brendan. We got great footage of Ishta because the cinematographer worked really well with the hawks, so that was great. And this is still Fort Howard.
Yeah, this is we're still here at Fort Howard until we get here, which is at the Maryland Renaissance Festival, which happened to be our very first day of filming, and just a really tricky first day. It was the first time we saw the makeup effects, which had some challenges there because we never had a chance to do makeup testing. We had some makeup issues where the makeup didn't quite hold as tight initially, and they had to make some adjustments throughout the shooting day, and as well as we ended up having so many extras. We got hammered by the amount of people that showed up, and this.
God bless him.
This next sweeping shot here is just an example of the amount of people in the wardrobe. And essentially, it was Kim doing all of the wardrobe. All these people right here were hand dressed by Kim.
And Lisa Carvel, who we ended up with at the very last minute, her and her friend Joy donated a lot of the clothing to be worn and abused. And yeah, it was me and Lisa just going crazy. There's one of the many worm stand-ins. We have several.
Lots of worm stand-ins. Now we're in the caverns, which was a fantastic location, but really a challenge to film at.
There he is.
And there's Ken and his Magda. and Chris Sepulveda is his kind of guard, and he's got a lady with him, and this was the first time we actually were filming Ken as Dagda. So again, me as a director, I never really had the opportunity to see the makeup effects until we were rolling because of my time constraints with the production schedule. Doug Henderson and his team, Steve Tolan and Matt Jackson and so many other people just did a fantastic job of just running with the ball and
without any sleep.
Without any sleep. I mean, they were in makeup 3 in the morning to be on set by 7, 8 o'clock. And of course we'd wrap at 11, 12 at night, so literally 1-2 hours sleep, and they were back at it, and just a phenomenal job. Here's Fernando, who Fetch's character Kim wrote.
I originally wrote him with another actor in mind, but when we saw Fernando, he came in to read for another film we were considering, Sleepy Hollow High 2, and everyone in the room was blown away by this guy. We were just like speechless, and he got ready to walk out, and I just was like, everybody, me and Kevin looked at each other like, don't let that guy leave. And he actually changed the Fetch character, but you know, it worked. He changed it around, and he changed a lot of lines. A lot of times Kevin said he didn't know what he would be saying, right? But it worked.
Well, what would happen is during the course of each scene, Fernando would come up to me and ask me some key questions. And as a director, you hire a cast and you trust that they'll bring to life what you need to be brought to life as. So when Fernando would ask me these key questions, I know what he was getting at, and I would try as best to clarify his questions so that when he would step foot on the set, I'd just let him run with the ball, and he would always surprise me. But it was a surprise that I knew in context of what he was doing, and together we kind of shaped the Fetch character into a completely different character than the way it was written, but I think really adds to the versatility of the entire cast.
Here we are in the dining scene, and this is Erica Ann, who did a fabulous job as the princess. When she came in to read, I got chills because when I was writing this, there was a certain way I heard the princess talking and moving. And there's lots of points. But Erica, she read that right on. This is my bird. There's my other hawk, Whittian. He's a falconry bird as well. But Erica, boy, did she do a good job. Perfect every time. She's just great. Like, great to work with her. She's, what, 16?
Yeah, she just turned 16. She just turned 16. There's George Stover.
There he is,
a staple in every Baltimore independent film produced. He's done quite a few water films. He appeared in Sleepy Hollow High, and also appeared in Operation Dalmatian, which was Jurassic Park.
And the girl that was just sitting next to Max is holding up the books. That's Kate. She's the one that made the book. There we go. Greg did a great job. Whittian doing what he does best. Squawk.
Right behind Erica is Caesar, who storyboarded the film and also worked to choreograph the action sequences, which, if you watch the behind-the-scenes segments, you will see him coaching a lot of the stunt players and extras in combat form.
And he showed up every weekend, and he was there the whole time.
Yeah, he was a real trooper. He really worked hard at bringing this project to life.
There's also a door, also made by Mike Valentine.
Yes,
right?
yes. That was a difficult door to construct because getting balsa wood that size is very challenging. But I found a place on the internet that carried a good sized balsa wood pieces, and it was designed very well. There's Lobster Boy, who actually we envisioned a lot of different characters within the Forest Kingdom, and we just so happened to have one opportunity to slide one in, and Doug Henderson quickly painted one up, and we just pulled someone as who's an extra
Alexander
to drop right in that, and
it worked.
It worked really, really nice. It looked photographed really, really nice. And now we're back here at Fort Howard, and you can see the obvious lush greenery.
There's those vines on the back of the trees behind Max.
and it was a fantastic location because it's one that if you could build a set, that would be way the farthest we look on a set anyway. So, and then the contrast of reality, which is a much more grayer tone, really sets a color separation between fairy tale world and reality world, which is really nice. As a director, you get to kind of separate color palettes and bring things to life differently, even at a low budget level. It's a challenge, but you give 150%, you get 70% out of it. That's a great quote from Ridley Scott, and I think any filmmaker, if they abide by those rules, will at least get some of what they want across the screen. Again, this is Mike Shaughnessy's house, and it photographs so nicely because we get that depth of field where Max's dad is out of focus behind Max reading the paper, and we get the kitchen, and the camera kind of pans around, and the Max can go up the stairs, so it's just a perfect house to film a film in. It's wide enough to really get some good shots.
Thanks again, Mike. There's Michael Bloom in stock. Up the steps. We actually used Michael's bedroom. He was nice enough to let us use that because Brandon and Kevin, his sons, were using their rooms at the time. But this is the good mouse, the good actress, little sweetie. This mouse just gave us fantastic, body positions, and she was inquisitive and looked around, and she really liked Tim. So that was helpful too. She really recognized him and seemed to like being with him. She met a couple other people, so we know that she had an affinity for Tim. She really liked him. And we're getting ready for this will be the fog sequence soon, which was a little bit of a challenge. Here's my necklace. My jewelry on display. Great expression.
Yeah, Brandon did a really good job using really tight lenses to get in there and see that mouse. His lens choices, I think, really paid off. He had a case of lenses that he really kind of knew what tools to use. It's a shame some of his other crew members, sound guy, couldn't use the same kind of tools to do their job.
Otherwise, the rest of the crew was fantastic.
Brendan did a great job shooting it, and it visually looks very nice.
There's that mouse. Now, how that mouse knew to do these little motions, and Kevin just ran with it and edited this fantastic, where the mouse really looks like he's saying something. Of course, the Foley sound is my newspaper rattling. I did that.
And here's our fog optical effects that set off the alarm.
Fire department was on their way, but Brandon saved the day. He called the alarm company. Kevin did a fantastic job with this. Literally at the last minute, last couple days, Kevin was downstairs feverishly doing this stuff and hadn't really learned the program yet. And just beautiful. I love when it's coming down the steps. That's my favorite part of those smart movies.
Yeah, the program just the manual didn't really come with very friendly tutorials. So in fact, it had no tutorials. So I had to very quickly teach myself what I needed to do in order to do these effects. And of course, a little more time, I could have perfected them. But I think it does its job the way it needs to. Most of my critiquing is probably based upon what I personally would like to polish, and not necessarily what an audience would see.
Scene here pretty much plays out how I envisioned it, how I wrote it. It's so cute where she goes to kiss her son goodnight, and there's a mouse right there by his face. It's cute. And then Kevin, of course, came up with so many cool Primble lines. With the extra lines we had, it just really worked out.
There's Max's dad finally having the opportunity to say something to Max, since Mom pretty much runs the household. course, what he has to say that the mom really doesn't like.
Ends up having the final say. And she played that great, by the way. She really played a good role.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the whole cast really came to life. It was a rare opportunity to really see each actor or actress bring to life the character so well. Sometimes you get 3/4 of your performance is really good, and a quarter kind of weak, or not quite what you envisioned. But there were a great cast that really brought each of their own pieces to the table that worked out nice.
And the milk trick that Max just did, a young man named Steve Shaw, he donated all the posters and magic props, and he actually taught Tim a bunch of tricks, which really added something to the film, I think.
Yeah, he really did a great job. He also provided a lot of the props in Max's room that established that he is a magician, and I positioned them, I laid them out within the room, but Steve provided me with a wealth of resources to establish that Max is a practicing magician.
And that was last minute too. A lot of things.
Everything
Last minute, and it's all together fine. Great look by Lisa.
And this is, we're actually back at the Gramercy estate.
That was Gramercy.
This is Gramercy.
Oh, there we go.
And there's the optical effect of the CGI effect of the magic door. And a different composition of the tree was used to help blend that into the background. And this was actually, this sequence here was shot on the last day. The last few scenes. In fact, that gray shirt there is the continuity issue that we ran into previously, because this is the outfit that he wore.
Well, it was shot right after this. Right after you finished this, we went right into him sitting on the log.
And I believe I'm going to slide that sequence into the deleted scenes so that you filmmakers out there learn from our mistakes, our expensive mistakes. Always make sure you have someone paying attention to the continuity.
And I had been, but I had run off to get the snacks that he fed to the animals, and because I had that on my mind, I kicked myself.
And of course, I'm working with the cinematographer to set up shots, so that.
One of those things. And we were tired. Boy, we were tired.
It just happened, and that in the future. Again, some great close-ups of the Brandon shot. As you can see, that particular sequence, we needed peanuts to try and keep the mouse still from running away. This was nice. At the very last second, Brandon and I shot a plate with Max walking into it, so you never have to actually see him open the door because it was just too complex of a CGI shot. I didn't want to show the door on the opposite side over and over and over again. You just get bored with it. So we wanted to keep the story moving forward, and this sequence here, which had great
that was a dollar
lush,
there.
yeah, it had great lush environments. Was actually at the Maryland Renaissance Festival, which blended nicely to the fairy tale environment, just for the way all those leaves are on the ground.
It's skunk cabbage, which is beautiful in the spring.
And when we were filming it, we thought it looked like those open pods from Alien. So I thought it looked like a fantastic environment to film in.
The robe here, the story behind the robe that Kevin ordered extra large, and of course Lee told us that he wore custom clothing because he's 6'8", huge guy, great guy, and our seamstress Betty Jane actually custom fit that to Lee by his measurements, not by him personally. So credit to her. It was kind of last minute too. And, she's not a big lady, and it was a real heavy outfit for her, so came out good. And Kevin found that stick at Fort Howard.
Yeah, it just happened to be a stick in the woods, and I said, wow, what a great looking stick. Why it needs to hold something. So it had a fantastic look to it, and it looked like something you actually made, but it's a natural stick.
So that looks fantastic.
And again, it's a last minute CGI effects that.
It's fabricated fog, which was clouds.
Right.
And you changed it.
Right, and I used that in the fog spell that Max casts during battle scenes.
And that beard, well, that beard was put on several hairs at a time.
Yeah.
It took hours and hours of me sitting there, and they glued that all to his face.
Yeah, the students from the Art Institute just really took Caesar's concept and brought to life. It's exactly the way it was conceived. That look is identical to the sketch, from the robe to the beard to even the head symbolism. They brought it to life completely. And when he showed up on set in makeup, I was just fascinated by the way he looks. And now we're back down in the caverns, and you can actually see on the left side of the screen a little bit of the railing.
Oh, I see that. Boy, that's the first time I noticed that.
So
yeah.
I did my best to cover as much as I could, but at that point I ran out of fur to hide anything. The skull with the candle on it is also a railing, but I covered it with some fur. I first tried burlap, and that didn't work. And, I used actually fur that was used as part of the extras' outfits to cover the railing, and it blended in great. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough. When you're a jack of all trades, you try to use whatever resource you can. And then the candles and everything. It's funny, we weren't allowed to really use torches, but we really need to establish a lighting environment within the caverns. So Kim and I and Brendan went to Walmart at midnight. They went to Walmart and bought out all their candlesticks and little gold pots to put them in.
We had to use unscented white candles so as not to damage the caverns. And Charles McFadden, who's the curator there, was just fabulous, and he allowed us to do this. Use candles in this room that's not active. This isn't an active part of the caverns. It's just a whole dry part. It's the deepest point of the caverns, so Kevin can tell you about the challenge there.
I wouldn't recommend filming an independent film deep in the caverns.
I don't think anyone else does it either. I've never.
And there's a reason for that.
Now we know why.
The two cuss words that were known to come out of my mouth during this production was too ambitious. And everything that I did was just too ambitious.
But it looks nice.
But it photographed so well.
It was just a painful process.
It was an incredibly painful process. The audiences are paying the same amount of money for our film as they are for a film that costs $20 million. So I stress that over and over and over again to my crew that when they hang me by what I'm challenging them to do. But in the end, the audience, will be paying the same amount of money, and for us to tell our story that an audience will buy into and accept, we have to tell it as if we had the resources and time and all the bells and whistles that Paramount Pictures has.
I personally, even though we had hours of dragging stuff down there and setting up, I actually really enjoyed filming in the caverns. As you can see, the 65 degrees down there, and Ken here looks like he's breathing fire, and it was just fantastic. It was just a challenge of lugging everything. It took us, 3 hours each time? 3 hours down, 3 hours back, and that cut into a lot of Kevin's filming.
Yeah, Brendan forewarned me that shooting on 35, this is our first real big production at this kind of level, was a time-consuming process. And of course, okay, whatever. And you gotta just go right into it. Then you realize you multiply that by the locations and myself as a producer set up, and you realize how many obstacles I have set up for myself in order to bring this to life. But again, it's a matter of telling your story properly, and I committed to Kim that if I were to handle this, I wouldn't compromise. Of course, day one I started compromising, but one thing I couldn't compromise is the locations that were already set in motion. And there are some scenes that I would have shot at the key locations just to keep the flavor of it, but I think in the end, any last-minute revisions that we had to do still plays out to the benefit of the story and not a detriment. And of course, now we're launching into our first big action sequence.
Oh boy.
Which really was a challenge.
This was the hardest part. Kevin really had to end up working with a lot of these extras himself, which is not normal to director's duties.
I mean, every move I had to supervise, and Caesar and Bill Lehman and John Shepard really, they did a fantastic job of getting these guys in working condition and presenting them to me, at least in a workable format, so that when I blocked the shots, I could trim here, tuck there, and get some really nice action sequences that I don't think you typically find in a budget like this. It really, just the scope of it. Carlos, and there's Caesar. You got a nice kick in here, right there. Wham! This is Hollywood style action as far as I'm concerned. Brendan did a great job filming the action sequences and giving me some whip pans that helped kick up the action. And of course, Kim's wardrobe really brings to life that these guys didn't walk off of some movie set, but look like they're lived in. Their costumes.
A good third of the costumes, a lot of these people work at the Ren Fair. And so a lot of these people were wearing their own costumes, and some of these costumes cost more than our entire wardrobe budget. Like $1,000 for a pair of these special custom boots, and so that added to the flavor too. And one guy's wearing a wolf hide that he acquired that legally, but really neat stuff. There's Carlos.
There's Bill Lehman, that's our key stunt choreographer there, who also played the elf in the beginning of the movie. So we had him double as several characters to really help smooth things along. And he's just such a trooper. He really just worked his butt off to bring these stunts to life.
There's Tigger.
There's Tigger with his...
I remember him because of his name, Tigger.
Right. And that's a nice effect that Brendan shot by reverse.